Alright, in this video we are going to see how to create a testimonial plugin. So these are the testimonials you can see. These are getting displayed from the database from a custom table. So I have created a custom table called WP Testimo, and from these values are getting fetched with the help of a shortcode. Now these are the values you see. This got stored into a database, and I'll show you where we can add these testimonial first. So you can see I have created a separate menu for that with menu and submenu. You need to click on add new. So this is the place where you will be able to add your testimonial, and this submenu will let you decide how many testimonials to show on a web page. So as of now it's getting displayed only 4. If you want to change, you can make this 5, or depending upon your requirement. And then there is a separate place in the dashboard that will display all your testimonials which you have entered. So these are the list of testimonials I have entered that you can see in the dashboard. Now these data are displayed with the help of a shortcode called show testimonial. So this is the page and this is a shortcode, and with the help of the shortcode the HTML is getting fetched and displayed it over here. Now that's enough for the intro. Now let's see what are the things that we are going to learn here. We are going to see how to create a custom database table. So as I have shown you, this is actually the table which we are going to create custom. What actually is custom is basically it doesn't come with WordPress inbuilt database tables. We have created our custom table. And the second thing, we are going to see how to create menu and submenu. So you see in the dashboard you'll be able to see a testimonial menu. This is custom created. It doesn't come with WordPress. Once you install your plugin, you'll be able to see the testimonial, which is actually the menu, and these are the submenus. Now we are going to see how to create form on the submenu pages. Now if you click on add new, you'll be seeing the place where to insert your testimonial. So this is actually a form, and then again the submenu setting will let you decide how many testimonial to show on a web page. And we'll see how to use or how to create shortcode to display our HTML. So these are the HTML that is getting displayed with the help of the table data. Now finally we are going to see how to create HTML table in dashboard. So HTML table is nothing but you'll see the list of testimonials to be displayed on this particular page. Now for the CRUD operation, we have seen how to display the data from the table and how to insert the data from the table. So modification and create, we have also seen how to create a table. So create is done on from C is on CRUD create, and then we have seen how to read. So this table is actually read. So create we have seen, read we have seen, update we haven't touched yet, and delete. So in the coming episode we'll see how to update and delete. So let's just focus on create and read for now. So that's enough for the intro. These are the topics that we are going to cover in this particular video. Now let's directly get into the code. So to make your plugin display on the dashboard, so we have a separate section called plugins where we will see all the list of installed plugin. Now we want our custom plugin to show on this particular page. So for that, what we'll do, we need to get into our plugin directory. So the plugin directory is actually will be inside our folder where our WordPress is installed, and then we have WP content, and then we have plugin. Now let me just create a new name called UI Monk. You can give any name. I'm just sticking to the UI Monk testimonial. Now I'm going to open it, the folder on the Visual Studio Code, so we can edit our code. Now this is our folder. It is recommended to have a PHP file inside the folder so that we can give the description about the plugin, and the name of the plugin, the name of the PHP file should be exactly with your let's create a new file. Should be exactly as your folder name. So UI monk -test.php. it's not a hard written tool, but it's recommended for WordPress to understand. And now in the plugin you'll see the description, the version and the author, also the plugin name. These data are coming from a comment. Let's just create that. Now you'll see UI Monk testimonial, and you can display your, this is the version 2, and if you want to give instruction like use so and so, use this shortcode. Let's say UI Monk, let's just keep it as UI Monk. Now if you refresh the page, you will see your plugin, just a name, it doesn't have any implementation code. So UI Monk testimonial uses shortcode and version and author. Now when I activate a plugin, I want a table to be created. So for that we'll be using a function called register activation hook. So this is a function. Once it's called, what we need to do is we need to fire a function. We need to execute a function. So this function will help you create WordPress table. So to create a WordPress table, what the minimum requirement is, we need a WordPress object, WordPress database object. Let's just call that, and this is WordPress database object. Now we need to know the prefix of each table. You can see this table has a prefix called wp underscore hyphen. So we can actually get this with the help of this wp-db. And now we need to know what actually the data format is. Usually WordPress, there are database table which follow different character set. Character set is nothing but the database way of understanding the text what you have inserted, and it uses some sorting method by understanding what character set it is. So the the minimum, or you can say the common data set or the character set is actually UTF-8 and UTF-8 MV4. So we need to know what data set, what character set actually this table is using, this database is using. So again, with the help of wp-db we can get that. With this function we'll be able to get what character set we have in our current DB. So this WordPress object will get you will get the prefixes, also will get you the data set, or you can say character set. Now we need to write a SQL query where you can define your column names, ID, name, message and table and date. Sorry, it's date. Now let's just create an SQL query for creating a table. We have used create table, and this is a table name which we'll be getting from this testimonials, and this is the column name. You can see name, message, date, these are the column names, and this is actually the data type. Which data type? Integer. It's going to be the integer. Again, it's going to be the tiny text, it's going to be text, it's going to be date and time. And we are specifying that these should not be null, these values should not be null. The ID should be auto incremented like 1 2 3 on each submit button. 1 2 3 should be there, auto incremented, and we are specifically saying that ID is actually the primary key, and this is the character set we need to submit along with it. Now we need to execute this query. So to execute any query in WordPress gives you two options. The first one is the common one, which is WP query, WP underscore query, or WP underscore query is common for all inbuilt tables, but since we have made a custom table, WP also provides another option, which is delta db. So we have a function that will execute this SQL code, which is delta db. Now to call this function, we first need to know where we first need to define where the delta db is actually located. So delta db is located in WP admin. Inside WP admin we have includes, then we have something called upgrade.php. In the upgrade.php you will actually have this delta.dp defined. Let's just call that. Now we have said we just need this file only once, and this is the absolute path till your plugin, or you can see your theme name, and then we have WP admin that includes in upgrade.php. This will execute once, since your plugin is active. If your plugin is not active, let's just activate that plugin. If you activate that plugin, the code with the help of register activation hook would get executed, and you'll get a new table in the The plugin character expected output during activation. Header already sent. Let's just see whether this is working or not. It seems to be a warning, not an error. In the where is test? Yeah, you can see there's a testimonials table added, and these are the columns. Now what we can do is we need to create a submenu. So let's see how to create submenu and menu. Let's just do that. Now for that, what we need to do is we need to call a hook. This is actually the hook admin menu, which will help you execute this function when the hook is called. The hook would be called based on the plugin execution cycle. Each WordPress follows a execution cycle, and on each cycle there is a hook attached. So this is one kind of hook. Once the lifecycle executes, this hook calls our function, and here in this function what we'll do is, and this hook is specific for admin menu. You can see in the dashboard, you will see admin. As I have logged in, I am an admin, so for that, for them to display, we will be using this code. Now we need to define first the name of the menu, and then we need to define the submenus. Let's just do that. And this is the function that will help you execute. This is the title, the page title, and this is the name. So we can just say UI Testimo. This is the title actually, and it's the capability that we are providing to the user, that he can manage option. Manage is nothing but, in the WP option there would be a table, in the WP option table there we are able to display our key value, or we are able to do whatever we want on the WP table. That's what this capability means. And then we have, this is actually the slug, and this is the relevant function. So in this function we'll use our read operation, which is displaying the HTML. And then let's create the submenu. The first submenu. Again, this is the slug that we need to give first, and then the name of the ad. Let's just keep it simple. This is the, everything seems to be similar to what this is. The page title, this is the page title, this is the menu title, and then the capabilities that we are giving, and this is the slug, and this is the relevant function. So let's just see whether it worked or not. So before that, we need to define this function, or it will throw an error. So this is for the read operation, and this is for the insert operation, which will be a form. I'll just let you see first whether on activation whether we are able to see. It says there is already declared. Let's just rename it to 22 because our other plugin is also active. Yes, you should see UI Testy, and on the UI Testy you see add Testimo. Let's just deactivate the old one, so since it's causing us some unusual error. Now you can see we have the read operation and we have the insert operation, but it won't work. It would be blank. Now let's define this. So let me rename this again. I've just kept it testimonial as it was earlier, since we won't be now interrupted with the already used name error. Now what we need to do, now we are getting into the second one, form. We are going to display form. When I click on add testimony, you need to see a form here. So for that, we can directly display a form here. You can say add testimonial, we have name, we have message, and this is the button submit function, and this is the text, and this is a class that it would have a blue color, and then this is the name. Each input field should have a name so that we can save our value into the database. Now you should see a form, a static form. It won't do anything. Now we need to use the insert operation. Now we need to check whether this button is set or not. So if you know PHP, it's very common. We use a set function. And now I have used if the button is submitted, then get the name attribute and message from the input field with the help of forced PHP super global variable. And now we need to use the insert operation. To use insert operation, we need the database object, let's just call that, and also we need the table name so that we can use insert operation. Now this wp-db gives a function called insert, let's just call that. Now you see we have used the insert operation which wp-db gives, and this is the table name that we have passed, and the name column will have the name variable and the message column will have the message variable. And if everything goes well, you should get a submit message. Let's try this. If you refresh the page, the code need to be updated. Now let's just type our first testimonial. I have already used. Click on add testimonial. You get a message. You see it has a class called updated. That's only when you could able to see this green. Now if I refresh the testimonial table, we see the column got inserted. Likewise, let me just try some more values. I don't have, since it's the Superman season, let's just use his keyword, use the keyword, and yeah, let me just insert the other 4 and come back. Now I have inserted the 5 testimonial. Now our read part is done. Now let's see what to do. Now let's see how to create a shortcode and display these testimonial in the front page. So to do that, we need to use a function called add shortcode. Let's just call that. Before that, we have missed one thing. We need to add a setting submenu which will again have the form, and here we would not be using the table called WP testimonial. Instead we'll be using WP option. Let's do that. First create a submenu over here. When this hook executed, our submenu also need to be created. Again it's similar. We need to give the slug for the main menu, and then we have our page title, then we have our menu name, and then we have the option or the capability that the user should get, and this is actually the slug, and this is actually the function that would be executed. So we need to define this, or else it will throw an error. Now refresh this. Your setting submenu should be ready, and as I click, you will see the slug changes to what you have defined over here, stm-setting. So it's a good practice to have hyphen on the slug and underscore on the function. Now to display here, we have to use a particular way of adding field, and previously it was custom table, so we can use our HTML directly. Say now it's WP option, so let's just get into a professional way. Now this plugin is getting a little more complicated because it's an addition of all the previous episodes which we have carried earlier. Previously we have covered 11 episodes. Individually I have done one by one plugin, like I have created custom table on one episode, and I have created submenu and menu on one episode, and I have created form on one episode, and I have created shortcode on one episode, and now this is the new feature that we have included in this particular video. Now as said, this plugin is going to be like 1 hour long. This plugin tutorial is going to be 1 hour long. It's the addition of all the other episodes which we have carried earlier. Now as said, we need to understand one thing. So to execute a form here, you need to have 3 things. The first one is settings. We need to register settings so that WordPress knows what field it would be having in the WP option. That's the register setting first, and then we need to register the setting field, and then we have setting section. So there are three things. The first one is we need to register setting, and the second one is the setting field, and the third one is setting section. So setting section is a container, and inside setting section we would have the setting field, and these fields are grouped as setting group. So I have already covered it earlier. It's just an intro. If someone is watching this tutorial from this episode, uh, you should know. That's the reason. So we would have section, inside section. Inside section we would have settings fields, and these are grouped as setting group. So you won't understand group right now because we would be having only one field here. So this is the diagram. Now let's create a form, and that form should have again these fields. The data would be submitted to option.php. Now this is the h2, and then we have form with method post, and as I said, the setting field is there and setting section is there, and then the submit button. Now we need to define the setting group. Let's just define the setting group first. The setting group would be initiated with this admin init hook, and this is how we register our setting group. So this is the group name, and then this is the value that would be displayed on the WP option table as a key value. So this is the key. So STM number, let's just say key, and then we need to register the setting fields. Let's just do that. So as said, the setting field will be inside setting section. We have to define setting section first. So this is again straightforward. This is the ID for the section, so that the setting field should know that setting field should know that the setting field will be inside a section. So that section is matched with this ID, and this is the name of the settings which you will see on the top, and then this is the callback function to describe about this setting, and then we have the slug. Now let's just register the settings field. Now we have a setting field. The setting field, again, this is an ID, this is the text, descriptive text, and this is a slug that matches. Instead of making things complicated, let's just directly have the function defined. As said, this is ID, this one is ID, and this one is the title for the settings field, and this is the callback function, and this is the page. You can see the slug, and that's it. And this is the setting ID. This is slug, this is setting ID, and this is the callback function. Sorry, this is actually the callback function. Let's just define the callback function, and we need to create a key value pair on this WP option. So I'll show you the previously added key so that you will have a better understanding of what it is. You see, this is the key and this is the value. So we have to define the key and value over here. So this get option will help you create or update. So better, let's just say if there is no value named, there is no key named this one, it would create this. And we need to have an input field. So for that we have displayed the input field, and if the value is not added yet, the value would be 5 by default. Now again, this section has a description. Let's just call that function also. It will do nothing, it will just describe what the section does. Now if I click on refresh, you should see the section is this one, and this is the field. You see, this is the field, which you have configured, and once this function executes, it will call this function, and from the database, as of now there won't be any value. If I click on save changes, the default will be 5. Now if I refresh this, we have named this as a key. Yes, you can see it's there, but the value is empty. Let's just make this 5. You need to mention the name as well. That's only when you'll be able to get the value. So the name and the column name should be similar. Yep, it got so stored. Now if I make this 3 and click on save changes, since we have only 5 testimonial, we want only 3 testimonial to show up, and you see the value should get updated. Previously we used a wp-db object. Now we don't need this wp-db object, since we have followed the regular way of utilizing the inbuilt WordPress table. We don't have to write external query. We just send our value to option.php. It will take care of it. Now it's time for the shortcode. Now let's create a shortcode, and this function, what exactly should happen in the shortcode? In the shortcode, we need to fetch the database value from the table called WP testimonials and display it over here and surround it with the HTML. So since we are going to use a custom query, we'll be needing the prefix and the WP global object for WordPress for database manipulation. Now again we need to run a query that would again need how many values to get displayed. So here this is also required. Let's just say num. Now we need to run a SQL query, and that will simply select all the values from the table, order by date, and in the descending order limit the value to the number which you have specified. If there is no value, then make it 3, or let's just make this 1 if there is no value mentioned. Now we need to use the for each to display these values one by one, so and store it into a variable called output. So this is the output variable which will have your concatenated values from the for each loop. So we have received the name, we have received the message, and storing it into the output variable and returning the output variable where the shortcode is written. Let's just say UI monk is the shortcode. Now we need to get into a page and write our own shortcode. Let's just call this page and click on edit, and we need to rename our shortcode. So add shortcode. So on the first argument, whatever you put in shortcode, click on save, and once you click on save, you should able to see the values. I think step-by-step guidance. Let's just see. Yeah, you can use step-by-step guidance by the He-Man comment. Sorry, a testimonial. So everything seems to be working fine. Let's just try adjusting the value from the settings page. Let's just make this 4. So once I click on save changes, you should see 4 values. Yep, that also works. Now it's time for the read operation. If I click on testimonial, you should see all the values on the WP table should get displayed over here. So for that, WordPress has a special class called WP_list_page. Let's just call that. Like earlier, which to execute a custom table, we have used a function which is dbDelta. So for that we need a file. Again, for the class that we are going to use, we need this we need this class which is wp-class-wp-test-table.php. Now we need to create a class that would extend this class. Let's create that. So we have created a table, so we have created a class that extends this WordPress core class. Now for the basic thing, we need columns and we need data from the database. So WordPress provides a inbuilt function to this class, so we can inherit on this class and modify it as we want. Now in this function we will use database query to fetch all the values. So let's just do that. We have used the table name and using the get result value we'll fetch all the values and order it by descending order and get the value in the form of associative array. So this is associative array. If it is n, then it's numeric array, and we can also pass object as well. Now this is the data. These data can be accessible by this variable. Now what we need is we need to define the column names. So let's just do that. So the variable provides, so this class provides some default variable for that. So note this keyword. So this keyword is responsive for displaying your column names. So we have a function, we will be creating this function, and it accepts three parameter. The first one is column, the second one is does some column need to be hidden or not, and since this is the easy one, we have made the array blank. And do you need sorting on the table? If I click on the column name, does it need to be sorted? And again I said I don't need any sorting, so it's blank. Now I have stored our retrieved value into the items. So now these two variables are provided by this class, so we can modify it on this class. Now we have modified it with the column name that we want and with the data that we want. Now let's just define this get column. So we can say this what columns need to be there. Let's define that. So again, instead of writing here array as it is, I have called a function and it will return an array. We need ID, we need name, we need message, and we need date. So these are the column names that this variable will hold, and item is the data. Now to display the values on these table individual cell, what we need to do is we need to use the WordPress provided function. So again, this is provided by this class. We can have this inside the class as well. Item, you see we have defined the item, and you see column name, we have defined the column names. Cool, that's enough. This is the default this is the inbuilt function provided by WordPress. Again, this is again the default variable provided by this class, and this is again the default variable provided by this class. This is the default function provided by this class. So this is the bare minimum to have your table to be displayed over here. If I refresh, if everything goes smooth, we should see as we thought, but no, there is still one more place where we need to call this class. So when I click on this function, it will give you a function, callback function over here, and over here I need to define these tables. So first I need to create an object for this class, which we have defined over here, which is stm list. I have just maintained the title as well and created an object and call the prepare item. If you remember, we have our inbuilt function prepare item, and then I am asking this to display. So for the recap, we have used the class wp list, and it has provided us some set of functions. The first function is prepare item, and then we have display, which we have used previously over here, display, and then it gives the function column default and two variables for the column name and the items. Cool. Now if I refresh, you should see the table with the help of this class. Now I think that's the end of this tutorial. If you want to try modifying it, we can do this over here. I think I have the updation operation is remaining. I'll meet that feature requirement. I'll do that requirement in the coming episode. So to make this episode short, I have skipped the updation and deletion part. Now as I refresh, you should see the humans data should get updated. Yep, you can see. And if you want to display only 2, you can also do that on the settings submenu. Just 2. I think keyboard is not working. Save changes. Now in the front end, you should see only table 2. I hope the flow is clear. Meet you in another exciting tutorial similar to this one. Again, it is going to be a little tough than the previous one. In that sense, we are making a good progress on each plugin creation tutorial. Thank you so much for listening.